Welcome to the Bernard Lee Poker Show 5th anniversary special. The last two episodes, we've had two iconic poker figures, the 2003 World Series main event champion Chris Moneymaker, and also the 2008 third place finisher Dennis Phillips. But today, we have the original young gun, the self-proclaimed poker brat, and the 1989 World Series main event champion, Phil Hellmuth. Phil, thanks so much for joining us here on the 5th anniversary of the Bernard Lee Poker Show.
No problem, no problem.
Do you still have fond memories looking back at the old films? I remember seeing the films. You were the young gun, the youngest ever at that point, with the old Walkman headphones, the collared shirt. When you look back at that, what do you think?
Well, I mean, I do look back at it, once a year or whatever, and it's pretty cool, and you're talking about 1989, so we're talking 22 years ago
Right.
that I won the main event, and at that time I was the youngest champion. I didn't think that record would be broken in my lifetime. There weren't as many young players back then,
Right.
number one. Number two, I think that unless they changed the format, in other words, to play down to the final table and then have a few months off, I'm not sure that a young gun could have won it, because it took an extraordinary ability to be prepared to do that in your life.
Right.
And a lot of the young guns aren't prepared to do that. When you're 21, 22, you're not prepared to do great things. And so I think what happened is I don't think you would have had the same winners if you would have played the next day.
Right.
I think those guys would have been happy to win $1 million, $2 million. And, but now in the ensuing 3 months, you're like, why shouldn't I win it?
Sure.
Why not me? And so
Right.
the 21-year-olds felt like that. And there's some great players.
Well, back in 1989, you're 24 years old, as you said, was the youngest champion. Of course, Peter Eastgate and then Joe Catta beat that record. But there was no online poker back then. And all the young guns, they came up through the ranks playing online poker. How did you get started at poker at such a young age and break through and become the champion in 1989?
Basically when I was 20 years old, I dropped out of college, the University of Wisconsin, which was a top 10 school at the time, and started playing poker professionally. And my dad was ready to kill me. I mean, my dad is a PhD.
Right.
He has an MBA. He has a JD.
Right.
And I'm the oldest of five, and I'm a guy.
Right.
And he worked at the university, so.
And expecting you to follow in his footsteps,
Yes,
of course.
yes, and to blaze the trail for the next four in the family.
Right.
And so when I dropped out of college to play poker, that was like me being a drug dealer to him at the time. Now, when I was 24 in '89, he finally came out to watch me play. I'd had some success on the global stage by then. I'd won the Bicycle Club main event in 1988, which was one of the four majors in poker back then.
Right.
That was a big deal. And then, so by then I'd had some really great things happening in my life, and he came out at my request, and he watched me win the main event, which was like that moment. That's my favorite moment. Is there's a great moment where I win it and I go like this, and I look up at the camera. I didn't know there was a camera up there.
above
I
you,
look
right.
up. I'm just like, and within a few seconds I'm looking for my dad.
Yeah.
Who I kind of banned from the tournament area because he was a distraction. So he was back in the TV trucks, and he's running up the aisle, you know what I mean? And security stops him, there's $1 million in cash on the table.
Right.
I wave him through, it's my dad, and I remember just giving him a big embrace
Right.
and having that kind of, And I told him, since he chose to watch the World Series of Poker, I told him I was going to win it, and then he decided to come out. But he kind of chose to do that over other trips. I was trying to convince him to go to Australia, which I didn't do until 2004, or New Zealand or somewhere fun. And, and I said, listen, Dad, if I win it, I'm going to buy you a new car. So I bought him a new Mercedes.
Nice.
And he drove that car until 2009.
Well, when we come back, we're going to talk more with the iconic Phil Hellmuth about what the World Series of Poker means to him when we return here on the 5th anniversary special of the Bernard Lee Poker Show.
You take 1,200 farm family owners, plus every major award for taste, plus fresh, all-natural, premium ingredients, crafted with a lot of love and pride. What do you get? A cheddar you can truly enjoy. For parties, favorite recipes, or you're just hungry. Cabot Cheddar from Vermont, voted best cheddar on the planet, time and time again.
Hi, I'm Bernard Lee alongside Andy Kaplan, the host of the Eastern Poker Tour's Tournament of Champions. Do you enjoy playing Texas Hold'em?
How about hanging out with your friends, having a couple drinks?
Do you want to improve your game?
How about being on TV?
Well, either way, visit EasternPokerTour.com for a venue closest to you. They award over $500,000 worth of prizes every year. Visit EasternPokerTour.com today. Welcome back to the Bernard Lee Poker Show 5th anniversary special. We are here with the 1989 World Series main event champion, also the 11-time bracelet winner, Phil Hellmuth. Which title do you like better?
I mean, the main event's pretty special, but 11 is, that's to be earned.
Right.
Winning a main event is awesome, but to rack up 10 more is pretty cool. Unfortunately, in 2011, I had 3 seconds.
Right, absolutely.
Which everybody tells me was a great year.
Right.
But I want the hardware, man.
I remember you saying that you'd rather have given up all 3 seconds for just one first place, obviously.
Sure.
The seconds were in the 10K deuce to 7. You had also the 10K stud 8 or better. And then, of course, the heart-wrenching 50-player championship with Rash. Of those 3, I think I might know the answer, but was any one of them more gut-wrenching than the other?
Well, to finish second in the deuce to 7 was a horrible experience for me, because that's a bracelet that I felt like, you have feelings about things, and I've always felt like I'm going to win a deuce to 7 bracelet, and I'm surprised I haven't to this point. Right. I've been down there a bunch. There's a bunch of unrecorded finishes where history doesn't remember that I finished 7th or 6th when they paid 5.
Right.
And, I know I've had a second to Billy Baxter in that event. I've had a 4th, and then to have another second, that would just hurt so much, because I thought that's a bracelet that I'm going to win for sure. But, of course, the 50K horse is the #1 bracelet that any poker player on the planet wants right now.
Right.
All right, yeah, the main event is right next to it for sure. But, to win that 50K championship and just to have that for the rest of my life. Right. And I was watching Brian Rast take the pictures, and I was just thinking, okay, what happened?
Right.
What
so
just
sudden.
happened?
It was just so sudden.
Yeah.
It was just, unfortunately, 3 draws in a row, and it just happened so suddenly. I remember reading about it on ESPN and following it along, and it was just all of a sudden, it was almost, I don't want to say this, but it was almost a foregone conclusion. Phil's going to get it. And it's going to be his first no-limit bracelet. It's going to be the 50,000.
In the 50K, the 8-game mix, I've had to listen to these people tell me that I can only play Hold'em. Well, now they all had to shut up from last year, which is kind of nice. But I don't play for the haters. I play for the lovers. And so I play for the dreamers, you know. And so to become this close, he had like 2.1 million in chips or something, and I'm sitting on 17 million in chips. To not win it from there, oh God. And then all of a sudden it just was boom, boom, boom. I'm watching him take the picture, and I'm like, something's wrong.
Right. How did this happen?
What I mean? I shook his hand, I handled it well, but I'm like, something's wrong. How did this happen?
Right. Well, there's other statistics behind 11 bracelets. Most WSOP caches, 85. Most final tables, 45. And, you were the youngest, obviously, before Peter Eastgate and Joe Cata broke those. The one thing that I realized in 2005, Johnny Chan, you were all tied. Johnny Chan, Doyle Brunson, yourself, you're all tied at 9. Johnny Chan gets his 10th, and then Doyle gets it 1 week later, gets his 10th, and you were still with 9. Did it give you a little extra motivation to go get that 10th the following year, and maybe even try to skyrocket over them to get that 11th? Was there that extra motive? Because you hadn't won one since 2003.
I was so close that year, because now I win my 10th.
Right.
And And now I'm at a final table
Right.
for my 11th. And it happens to be the morning of. So we're talking about '07.
Right.
So we're talking about the morning of the main event. And I'm also basically, so basically it's like maybe 5 in the morning now. I've been playing just forever for this bracelet. We're down to 3-handed. And I'm thinking I'm going to win this. The main event final table starts at like 5 p.m. or something, or 2 p.m. or whatever it was. And I said, I'm going to stun the poker world. I'm going to win this bracelet. I'm going to, and everything. And so I'm right there prepared to do it, and then to fall short. And, you know, that was a great year for me. And, you know, the press starts reporting that I had passed, you know, Jeff for the Player of the Year. And, you know, and I'm like, yes, I won Player of the Year.
Right.
And, you know, and they had to have a ruling. They had to have a long meeting about it to decide whether or not, because the event that I had played in was a bracelet event.
Right.
And they didn't know whether it counted towards Player of the Year or not.
It was actually started after the main event had started. It's a
right,
very unusual
but it was considered
situation.
a bracelet
Right,
event,
right.
or I wouldn't have even been playing.
Right.
And, you know, just to get down there and just, you know, and so then they ruled that I didn't win the Player of the Year. There's another second. I had a great year. You know, a first, a second, a third, a fifth, a 13th. You know, in the modern era, pretty kick-ass. Jeff Madsen did have 2 firsts and 2 thirds. My hat's off to him.
Right.
But you know, by one set of rules I passed him, and
Right.
by another set of rules I didn't, and he won Player of the Year, and now in 2011. To get second Player of the Year again, come on, what's going on? You know, I mean, give me my World Series of Poker Player of the Year. You know, I mean, that's twice now, and this time I was passed in the last event, the main event.
Right. How many bracelets do you think you're going to win when it's all said and done?
24.
I've heard that you said that. Why do you say 24? Such a specific number.
I don't know. You know, I mean, I've had these kind of visions. I'm not some kind of like, you know, I'm not kind of somebody that, you know, sees into the future necessarily, but I've always felt like I'm going to win 24 bracelets. I don't know. It's just had a feeling that I've had. I could be wildly off.
Right,
I mean, God knows that 3 firsts would be 14.
Right.
Instead of 3 seconds, still on 11. So I've just had a sense that I'm somehow going to knock off 24 bracelets.
When we return, we're going to talk with Phil Hellmuth about all of his incredible entrances to the World Series of Poker main event and some of his famous quotes over the years when we return here on the 5th anniversary special of the Bernard Lee Poker Show.
Card Player is the world's most widely distributed poker publication, with an industry-leading magazine and website bringing poker fans insight into their favorite game with player profiles, tournament coverage, and in-depth analysis of the gaming industry. From the World Series of Poker to high-stakes cash games, Card Player is bringing you the scoop on everything you need to know about the poker world. You can get a subscription to our print magazine, download our app for the iPad or iPhone, or purchase a digital subscription. For more information, check us out on cardplayer.com.
I want my HPT.
I want my HPT.
I want my HPT now.
I want
my HPT.
I want my HPT.
I want my HPT.
I want my HPT.
I want my HPT.
I want my HPT.
I want my HPT.
Enter your zip code at hptpoker.com to find out where you can see the HPT all across America 52 weeks a year.
Well, these days you get a high-def picture of it.
I thought you were just taking the phone and going like that. What are you talking about?
Right, it's crazy, right?
All right, ready?
All right, here we go. You guys
Yep. Welcome back to the Bernard Lee Poker Show 5th anniversary special. Phil Hellmuth has been known for his entrances and a lot of his famous quotes. Phil, a lot of people remember a lot of the things you have said over the years at the table.
And done.
And what I will love to talk to you about is some of those quotes and kind of get your reaction now of what those quotes meant and kind of, do you regret saying them or you are fully aware of how you said it? Yeah.
Bring that on, but in 2012 I'll give you a hint who I'm coming in as.
Okay, great,
Ready?
excellent. Okay, we'll just leave it at that. That's an exclusive here on the Bernard Lee Poker Show. So let's talk about some of the quotes. I'll give you 5 of them. 1, I remember this during an ESPN interview, I can look into their souls.
I've always tried to describe what it is that makes great poker players great. And you think about looking at people, but it's not just that. So you have to really see the whole person. So I started thinking, okay, when I look at somebody, what is it? Am I picking up a tell? No. Am I picking up, something? And finally I thought, I'm picking up the essence of what they're doing. I'm looking into their soul. So it seemed poetic to say that, and I've said that. It actually scared a few people. People are like afraid when I say that, and so I'm like, all right, they don't actually mean your soul, but
this guy probably can't even spell poker.
Yeah, they probably shouldn't have said that. I mean, the guy played the hand obviously horribly,
right?
And then he had King Jack, and he went crazy when I had Ace King,
right?
And put in just 150 big blinds, some crazy amount like that, way too much money, and then. And so I'm sitting there waiting for the river card to come. It's going to put me near the chip lead.
Right.
And the board is all blanks, and I'm like, okay, he needs a jack. There's only 3 of them left in the deck, and bam, bam, jack on the last card. And then I just went crazy, and I told him the truth about how he played the hand. It was good entertainment, but I probably, need to bite my tongue a little more often.
Obviously, that happened at the feature table for that year of the World Series. Another one that happened at the feature table is when you were playing with an older gentleman, and you jump up, you tell your wife, honey, I was supposed to go broke on that hand, but they forgot one thing. I can dodge bullets, baby.
That's a great quote. I'll never regret that quote. I mean, that was just, spur of the moment. It's not like I think of these things in advance.
Right.
I had Ace King,
yep.
And I raised it, and the other guy re-raised, and I was getting ready to re-raise because every time I'd raise, they'd re-raise me. And so when I looked at Ace King, I'm like, yes, finally I get to re-raise them, So I 2-bet it, as we say in the business. He 3-bets it, and all of a sudden I'm stuck just looking, and I'm like, uh-oh. And I have this uh-oh feeling.
Right.
And any great poker player, and maybe there's 10 or 15 or whatever there are on the planet, should instantly know when they're against the best possible hand.
Right.
I mean, you don't really have to be in tune. And something was like wrong. I'm like, wow, this guy has a strong hand. And I was like, okay, I can't re-raise him. In fact, I want to fold. And I said it would just be too ridiculous to fold Ace King. I've been taking a lot of criticism for folding it. But I should have gone with my instincts and maybe fold. Anyway, I called the re-raise, and it came Ace, Deuce, Deuce.
Right.
And now I have Ace King, and I check and he checks. And now they turn a queen, and I check, and he bets 10,000.
Big bet.
A big bet. I mean, if he had bet 2,000, I'd probably just call without even thinking, or 3,000 or something. 10,000. Now my instincts are going haywire. He has aces full or queens full. He has aces full or queens full. Da 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 da. So probably within 17 seconds, I decided to fold the hand.
Right.
And the guy sitting next to me, the quack quack duck guy, what's his name?
Paul McGrew.
Yeah, Paul McGrill's sitting next to me. I folded the hand face up, and everybody at my table's in shock. How could you fold it? What a horrible laydown. Right, and that's what the world thinks, and so these days I'm thinking it's just white magic. I have a little white magic in that I can. It's just that I can read people, but the kids don't get that.
Right.
So I explained it to them as, all right, I just have a little white magic, boys.
Right.
And so I flipped it, and you could see the shocked look of the people, and McGrill thought I had lost my mind. Well, then the guy showed aces full, and all of a sudden I had players come up to me after they aired that and say it was the best laydown they'd ever seen in their life. I mean, great poker players. Right. And so I just felt like just something was going off, and that's what you're supposed to be able to get out of when you're a great player, is when you flop a great hand and they flop the greatest hand. Those 1 or 2 laydowns is why you can accumulate so many bracelets.
Well, when we return, we're going to talk with Phil Hellmuth about the state of poker today. When we return here on the 5th anniversary special of the Bernard Lee Poker Show.
Around these parts, it's all the same. Think they know you start because they know your name, and everybody carries torches, flame for secret level, never obtaining. Idolize about lives they read or pray their gods, they don't catch disease well. I never seen them on their
The voice of ESPN's poker, Norman Chad.
ESPN decided to do more poker. They called me because I think I'm the only person they knew with a gambling problem.
Welcome to the Bernard Lee Poker Show 5th anniversary special with Phil Hellmuth. We want to talk about really the off-the-felt activities. You've talked about that you didn't want to be in a situation where you had to play. And you've really created an incredible brand, really incredible. And I will have to admit that I really aspire to get even to 10% of where you are with your brand. And you have made videos, you've made books, apparel, you've been on a beer can. I mean, this is things that sports stars don't get onto. Tell us a little, your website, pokerbrat.com, where all of these can be. Tell us a little bit about how you work on that brand every single day.
The beer can was pretty cool. I mean, I tell people one of the coolest things that ever happened to me. They're like, what about all your bracelets? I'm like, all right, the bracelets are amazing. But I'm talking about just right cool. You know, I'm just cool. 12 million beer cans. Sweet.
So, what is it? How do you constantly keep refreshing that brand and building it and strengthening it?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of that is plan and part of it was by accident, right? Like, my behavior has not been exemplary, and honestly, I'm not proud of that. I can laugh at it. I can make fun of myself, right? Because if you can't, there's something wrong with you. You know what I mean? Right. So I can laugh at myself. I can watch myself on TV and say, "Who is that idiot up there?" And so this is the way I've always been since the 80s and 90s, and I always tried to get rid of that poker bratedness. And you know, it was interesting. I mean, it was a black mark against me until televised poker, and then the producers kept pulling me aside and, Phil, we don't want you to, you know, we want you to keep going like this. We don't want you to let off the pedal. So I think part of this, of the Poker Brat brand is the fact that I've acted, you know, in ways that I regret. Right. All of it stemming from me wanting to win so badly. Sure. And none of it being personal. Mm-hmm. It's sounded personal, but in every case I've apologized. So I think that's part of it. And then you find yourself in a position where you're on television all the time. You're on ESPN and NBC and all of these different shows. I mean, it's amazing. Fox. And all of a sudden I looked up and I'm on television more than, you know.
Every time you turn the channel, it's a TV show, and you're on it. So.
I mean, NBC, you know, 6 days a week for an hour a day, you know, 50% of the time. And then there's Fox. Same thing, and then and so all of a sudden you're a global television star, and I thought, well, you know, I might as well, you know, start creating a brand. And so the first thing I had done was I wrote a book on how to play, a basic book for the public. I saw the wave coming, and I threw this book out there, and I had a lifetime goal of writing a New York Times bestseller. Boom, 2004, it hits the New York Times bestseller list. I'm like, lifetime goal, cha-ching! You know, another lifetime goal of mine was, you know, to win the main event. Took care of that in '89. To meet and marry a wonderful woman. Still happily married 22 years later. Wanted a really nice house, you know, cars, all that kind of stuff. And so it's been a really nice run that way. And so the creation of the brand, you know, has been fun. And then we did another book, and then we started doing videos. And so I could slap the logo, you know, and I guess, boy, you don't see the full version of my logo very often, but there it is. That's the full version of the logo.
Of course, lucky number 99 for the hand that you won the World Series main event with.
This is my logo. Mm-hmm. And so this is what's slapped on all my books and DVDs, and then, but basically you'll see this version on the hat because it just looks cooler. We experimented. So all of a sudden you've created a logo and you've created a brand. And then it's a matter of, you know, kind of getting that logo and brand out there. I think it was great that I was on 12 million beer cans, and I made sure that this logo was on my hat on those beer cans and showed up in gold. And so it's been a really fun ride, and I think I have a long ways to go with that. Mm-hmm. You know, there's going to be another online site that I'm going to get involved with once the legalization happens.
You talked about when online poker comes back in the U.S., you're looking forward to signing with a new site. You obviously were the face of UB Poker for a long time. You left UB Poker before the true debacle happened, but obviously you were still thought of as the face of poker of UB for so long. Do you feel that that debacle at UB hurt your brand a little bit at that time?
Oh, absolutely, it hurt my brand, and you know, I thought the fallout was going to be 10 times what it was. And so I think that the one thing I had going for me is that I've had perfect honor and integrity in the poker world. That means something. This is not the business world. In the business world, people don't necessarily have the honor and integrity. But in the poker world, we remember everything. And if you have a perfect reputation for 5 years, it means something. Never mind 10 or 20 years. So I had that going for me. People had seen me in situations which could have been compromising all the time.
Exactly.
I mean, I left the online poker world in basically September. Everybody kind of knew I wasn't wearing a hat to the tapings of stuff in October and November. My official departure was January 1st. Everybody's like, Phil is a genius. No, I just left. I was looking, you know, I was looking for a better deal, and you know, and you know, I was basically going to sign a huge deal probably by May.
Right.
So April 15th comes along, poker disappears. There goes the salaries of, you know, of the top like 20 players on the planet.
Right.
You know, you're used to making all this money, and all of a sudden the salary's gone. You better focus on poker and win. So I was lucky because I left. There was no fallout, you know, to me personally.
Well, Phil Hellmuth, you have proven yourself over the past quarter century. We expect to see you more for the next quarter century, and we hope you get to that 24 and maybe even beyond bracelets. 1989 World Series main event champion Phil Hellmuth, thanks so much for joining us here on the Bernard Lee Poker Show. We hope you enjoyed our segments for the 5th anniversary of the Bernard Lee Poker Show. We're so fortunate to have had these 3 iconic players, Chris Moneymaker, Dennis Phillips, and today, Phil Hellmuth. Well, it has been a phenomenal ride. I hope you've enjoyed it. And as always, may you always go in with the best hand, and may you never get unlucky. Good night, everybody.